Just,
I'm sorry.
Judge, I need to mark the exhibits, please.
I beg your pardon?
Can I mark the exhibits? You just gave me a.
Oh, are you marking exhibits?
Yes,
Okay,
just
let me know
gave-
when you're done.
Okay.
Prior certification of prior conviction.
Okay, Judge, I'm ready.
All right. Again, on this file, 147011019, People versus Johnson, Richardson, and Wisher. There's a preliminary, well, appearances, please.
Karen Goldfarb, Your Honor, appearing on behalf of the people and with Officer Mott from Homicide.
And good afternoon, Maria Manarino on behalf of Mr. Richard Johnson, who is present and seated in front of you.
Good afternoon, Your Honor. Susan Reed on behalf of Robert Richardson, who is seated in front of me.
Your Honor, Lyle Harris, I was court appointed on this position.
Your Honor, good afternoon. Craig Daly on behalf of Mr. Witcher. I am the retained counsel for Mr. Witcher, and I was retained at 12:30 this afternoon, Judge. And therefore, I am moving to adjourn this matter.
I beg your pardon, you're doing what?
Moving to adjourn this matter, the exam.
The court notes that there was at least one previous adjournment on a part of everybody, because there were two defendants and apparently a third that had to be caught up.
Right.
So Mr. Wisher has had one exam adjournment already.
No, I
don't
think it was
believe so.
Richardson and Johnson had an exam, because.
The other two?
Yes, because Witcher was not in custody warrant, and they had to find him.
This would be Mr. Witcher's first request.
Could be, but I have the paperwork that says that Witcher has had an adjournment.
Oh.
That's what it says right here.
I don't know why.
Okay.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
yeah, I was present at the time of the first exam date, and it was Miss Johnson and Mr. Richardson who were the only ones present. At the date and time set for the examination is when we all learned that in the interim Mr. Witcher had been picked up. And so when that was explained to the court, it was on the court's own motion that it was adjourned until Mr. Witcher's exam. Now, what may have happened, Judge, is that at the time of the arraignment of Mr. Witcher, it was set for a date that did not coincide for when it was adjourned.
That's what I was thinking, that we
There it
didn't
is.
even know, have
We
notice
did
of
have an
another day.
adjournment, but it was different from the one that.
Right, like they set the date at the arraignment, and nobody was even here probably.
Well, we need to have something clear here. The fact that someone's in this appointed counsel versus a retained lawyer is of no difference in the eyes of the court or in the eyes of the law. A lawyer's a lawyer. Now, in a perfect world, where someone has the ability to hire a lawyer of their choice, that's ideal, and it's encouraged. On the other hand, there's a great number of cases that speaks in terms of the fact that even though it might be the lawyer of choice, if it delays proceedings, there's no greater proceeding than a trial. If you use that, or if it occurs that the lawyer cannot take the date set, it is discouraged because there's an interest of justice that comes into play here. In this instance, while I have no problem with Mr. Daly filing a substitution, and that's really what this is. It's not that you just get to file a retained appearance in front of a different lawyer. It's a substitution, and the court has a voice in it. You're welcome to substitute if you can accept the preliminary examination as set today, where I have multiple defendants. I have presumably more than one witness, I don't know for sure.
Yes, there's a number of witnesses. There's a medical examiner
I
with you
have a
too.
report that you may or may not have seen, Mr. Daly, on your client that indicates that he is, there was an interview with a Miss Hicks. Your client is in very poor physical health. He has COPD, asthma, gout. He also has a heart condition. He, although albeit good mental health, but an extensive history of substance abuse. All by way of saying you can see that he's on oxygen here. There's nothing that would suggest that the next time I put this over, there won't be a medical issue. There's nothing to suggest that next time somebody gets another lawyer and they substitute. And the third time or fourth time or fifth time, somebody gets another lawyer. And you could delay successfully and thwart the preliminary examination for an extended period of time. And if you think anybody listening to me thinks I'm exaggerating that, I will show you files in the 36th District Court that are 2 years old at the examination stage, where one lawyer shows up, the other one doesn't show. One lawyer substitutes, and the other one then gets another lawyer. And round and around and around we go. So what I'm going to do, and since this is merely a probable cause proceeding, is I will deny the adjournment, but Mr. Harris will be here, you will be here. If you hear any questions that you think Mr. Harris should ask, I'll even let you ask and participate. So that Mr. Witcher is twice blessed by having 2 lawyers instead of just one.
Well, I appreciate your concerns about moving the case forward, but Mr. Witcher is asserting his right to his own lawyer, notwithstanding your concerns, Judge, and I would renew my motion for an adjournment.
And as I indicated, that will be denied, and let's proceed. You've got a chair there? Yes, looks like you do. For yourself, Mr. Daly? I do. Good.
Your Honor, I would request that any witnesses or potential witnesses be sequestered.
And that was why I was standing as well.
Okay, so both sides will kind of be conscious of who that might be, and we'll use your best judgment as to who should be sequestered. Okay, please call your first witness.
Yeah, Your Honor, at this time, I would be moving to enter as exhibits people's proposed exhibit number 4, which is the certification of the Recorder's Court for the prior conviction of Robert Richardson. I would move for admission of a certified copy of prior conviction from the Oakland County Circuit Court on exhibit number 5 for Harvey Witcher, and move for admission of number 6, which is a certified copy of prior conviction for Patricia Johnson. Those are people's proposed exhibits 4, 5, and 6, and I'm moving for their admission at this time.
Objections?
None on behalf of Ms. Johnson.
Not on behalf of Mr. Richardson.
And for the purpose of this examination, not on behalf of Mr. Richard.
Thank you, they'll be received.
Thank you. And Your Honor, at this time, I'd be calling Dr. Nijawji, I believe. It's Nijwaji.
Thank you. I think that may be, you're the doctor? Come on up, please, doctor. We're just kind of come around. Give your name to my court reporter. Who's the lady over in the waiting house over there, please?
And while she,
And then you were gonna say something, Ms. Goldberg.
Yes, will council stipulate to the identification of the child at the Wayne County Medical Examiner on or about January 18, 2014 as Jamel, Jamel Witcher.
On behalf of Ms. Johnson, I will so
Stipulate to identification.
I will stipulate your purposes of the preliminary examination.
Yes, for the examiners.
Thank you. Please.
Thank you. Doctor, can you state your name for the record?
Dr. Chantel Jawaji.
Okay, and Doctor, how are you employed at this time?
I'm employed by University of Michigan and Wayne County Medical Examiner's Office.
And are you're assigned to the Wayne County Medical Examiner's Office as part of your duties with the University of Michigan, is that right?
Yes.
All right. And what are your duties at the Wayne County Medical Examiner's Office?
We perform autopsy on forensic pathology cases.
In order to become a medical examiner, you have to have quite a bit of education, isn't that true?
Yes, true.
And you have to be a medical doctor.
Yes.
Are you a medical doctor?
Yes, I am.
Are you licensed to practice medicine in the state of Michigan?
Yes, I am.
All right. How long have you been so licensed?
I have been licensed since 2012.
Okay. And to practice in the state of Michigan?
Yes.
All right. Are you currently undergoing training in forensic pathology, or have you completed your training?
I've completed my training.
When did you complete your training in forensic pathology?
I completed my training in Miami-Dade, Florida, medical examiner's facility, and that was in 2011.
All right. And prior to that, did you have also training in anatomical pathology?
Yes, I did.
Where was that training, please?
I did my training in New York City, and first at St. Vincent's Hospital, and then at St. Luke's Hospital, affiliated with Columbia University.
All right. And when did you complete your medical degree?
Medical degree was completed at Wayne State University, and that was in 2005.
And I don't know, I can't remember, did I ask you how long you've been with Wayne County Medical Examiner's Office?
It's since 2012,
All right, since when in 2012?
August 2012.
All right. Your Honor, at this time, for exam purposes, I'd offer Dr. Najwaji is an expert in the area of anatomical and forensic pathology, and I yield the word to you.
Any blood here?
Not on behalf of Ms. Johnson.
None on behalf of Mr. Richardson?
No, Judge, I'm here. All right, thank you.
You may proceed.
Thank you. Doctor, as part of your duties with the Wayne County Medical Examiner, did you have an opportunity on or about January 18, 2014, to perform a postmortem or autopsy examination on a 4-year-old child known to you as Jamel, Jamel Witcher?
Yes, I did.
And were you able to determine the matter of the death of Jamel Witcher?
Yes,
What was it?
homicide.
Were you able to determine the cause of his death?
Yes,
What was the cause?
gunshot wound of the chest.
And why did you determine the manner of death to be homicide as
Well,
a medical examiner?
in the medical examiner system, manner of death is used for public health statistics, so it's not a legal definition. So it's described as just someone who caused the injury. And in this situation, another person caused the injury to Jamel.
And you indicated it was a gunshot wound, is that right?
Yes.
Were you able to how big was Jamel Witcher?
He was actually 3 foot 5 inches, 39 pounds.
All right. And where did he suffer the gunshot wound?
It was to his left chest.
And were you able to determine the wound track? Well, what is meant by wound track, first of all?
Wound track is as a result of the gunshot wound perforating through a person's body. And what that leaves behind is an actual tract of the bullet.
Okay. And can you determine if the bullet went upward, downward, or something else when you examine a body and a gunshot wound?
Yes. In the case of Jamel, the gunshot wound direction was front to back, left to right, and actually upward.
Upward. So that would mean that somebody who was below him in some way put the bullet through his 3 foot and 6 inch body. Is that right?
Yes, either that or the gun was at a level that was below him. Yes.
Okay. But it was certainly below him.
Yes.
And can you tell if he was standing, sitting, when, at the time that someone put the bullet through him and upward?
That I cannot say.
Was there any physical abnormalities with Jamel that could have contributed to his death other than the gunshot wound through his chest?
No.
I have nothing further, Your Honor, this one. Oh, you know what? One more question. Was there any evidence of close range fire?
There was no evidence of close range fire on the skin of Jamel. However, I did not have the clothing to assess.
And would the clothing, the kind of clothing he was in make a difference as to whether or not there was evidence of close range fire on his actual skin?
That's true.
Okay, and you don't know because you don't, how close of range it was. You only know that there was no evidence on his skin. Is that correct?
That's correct.
I have nothing further, Your Honor.
Okay, Ms. Van Rito.
Thank you. Just a, did you have something else? Just a couple of questions. You said that there was no, or the prosecutor asked you, was there any evidence of close range fire? What does that mean to you? What's close range?
Close range fire is where you have evidence on the skin, or you might have soot on the skin, a muzzle impression, which means just the muzzle of the gun is indented around this gunshot wound. Soot is something that is left behind by the emanation of gases along with the bullet itself. That might be on the skin, but also might be on the clothing.
Okay. So on the skin, you found no evidence.
No, I did not.
And so does that tell you that what distance the gun must have been from him?
It gives me an indication in terms of the distance, but in this case, it could not be assessed because it was not associated with the gunshot wound.
Okay, so you couldn't tell whether the gun was any set of, inches or feet away from him?
Correct. That's why it was termed indeterminate range.
Okay. It could have been as close as, how close, if you could tell?
It could have been very close, within a foot.
Okay. And it could have been any number of feet away?
True.
Okay. All right. So, and you say that the wound track, first of all, you said you couldn't tell whether he was standing, sitting, laying, what position he was in when he was shot. Is that fair?
That's true.
You don't know if he was standing, sitting on the bed, what position?
True.
Okay. But you do know, you said that the wound was front to back, which meant he was shot from the front.
True.
And the bullet actually traveled through his body.
Yes.
And in the direction it traveled through his body was left to right.
Yes.
Could you tell at what degree or what angle left to right?
At what angle, I do not know. I know in terms of the injuries that the bullet created within his body.
Okay. Well, for example, you could tell that the wound track was upward.
Yes.
And you could determine that because the wound in the front was at a different level than the exit wound.
True. The upward trajectory was about an inch.
About 1 inch. So the entry was at about you tell me.
13 inches
Okay.
below the head.
Okay.
Top of the head.
The entry wound was 13
Yes.
inches, and the exit wound was
12.
And so it went from a 13 to 12. That, to me, signifies down.
13 being below the head.
Okay, so 13 in the front, 12 in the back.
Yes.
And forgive me, but that indicates to me a downward trajectory.
Actually upward, because I'm assessing the gunshot wound pattern in a standard anatomic position. So the person, if a clarification diagram in a forensic pathologist would make.
Are you looking at, you're talking about the usual charts?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
So the decedent would be in a standard anatomic position, which means they would be standing front first with their arms or their arms to the side and their palms open. So that is what I'm using.
Okay, and forgive me, but I'm just not understanding how if it's 13 in the front and 12 in the back, why that's not a,
Well, in order to go from 13,
To
from
12
below
is
the,
up.
from below the head, and to go from 12, you have to go up.
gotcha, thank you.
Yes.
All right, so, oh, and I'm sorry, and then the other question then, the left to right.
Yes.
How do you determine left to right?
Left to right is actually, the entrance room was to his left chest.
Okay.
And the exit room was to the right side of his back.
Okay, and, you know, again, we used 13 and 12 last time. Do you use those same measurements to do?
I do use measurements. The measurement from the anterior chest was about 1 3/4 inches from the anterior midline. So we go from the midline of the body to where the gunshot wound was.
Okay, and I'm sorry, and that deviation was what?
About 1 3/4 inches.
Okay, so 1 inch, and then one from top to bottom, and then 1 3/4 side
From
to
the
side.
midline,
Okay.
yes.
Nothing further, thank you.
Okay, Ms. Reed?
Thank you, Your Honor. Am I correct in looking at this report that there was no bullets recovered, no fragments recovered of any kind?
No, this was a perforating gunshot wound, which means the bullet traveled completely through his body.
And in performing the autopsy, did you find any fragments of fiber or anything that might have been pulled through the wound track, clothing, or anything of that nature?
No, I did not.
I have nothing further, Your Honor.
Any questions, Mr. Gabriel?
Judge, my position is the same. I'm not prepared to proceed with proceedings, and I would renew my motion.
Well, do you have any questions?
Judge, I've already.
Okay, so we apparently you're not interested in asking any questions, that's fine.
It's not that I'm not
Thank you, Doctor.
interested,
You may
I'm not
step down.
prepared.
Your
Thank
Honor,
you.
Wait, can I just
Okay.
follow up? Doctor, you mentioned the diagram. I'm going to show you what's marked as People's Proposed Exhibit Number 1, are you familiar with that document?
Please go ahead.
Yes, I am.
Is that your report and the diagram attached?
Yes, it is.
And there's also a toxicology report.
True.
All right, and just for clarification, the toxicology was non-contributory, didn't give you any additional information, correct?
No.
All right. Your Honor, I'm moving for admission of People's Proposed Exhibit Number 1, which is the autopsy report on toxicology.
Any objection?
No objection, Your Honor.
No, Judge, I'm sorry.
No objection to the executive.
Be received. Thanks, Doctor. I guess we're all set.
Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you. And the doctor will be excused.
No objection.
Thank you very
No
much.
objection.
Jane? Adrian Thompson. Good morning. Let you know. What? I don't have a.
Miss, if you'll come around, Miss, if you'll come around and tell the lady in the,
Investigators report her name, but they have to.
wait, hold on just a second, I want to swear you in first, okay? So if you'll raise your right hand. Solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give will be the truth. Okay, great. Now you can get yourself comfortable.
Oh, this.
Yes, well, you got both going on at the same time. One is for the recorder and one's for the courtroom. So that one that's on the stand is for the courtroom, so if you bring that one close to you also, then I hopefully won't create a cross feed problem, but I need to hear you, okay? Thank you very much. Please.
Can you please tell me your name?
Adrian Tubbs,
Can you spell your first name?
ADRIAN,
And what about your last name?
TUBBS.
Miss Tubbs, you were the mom of Jamal Witcher, correct?
Yes,
And how old was Jamal?
4.
Are you familiar with the address of 7125 Tuxedo
Yes,
in the city of Detroit?
yes.
All right. How are you familiar with that address? How do you know that address? What do you know? What makes you know that address itself?
'Cause that's where my grandparents and everybody else live.
Okay, that's where whose grandparents live?
Jamel,
Okay. And who are Jamel's grandparents?
Patricia Johnson Richardson, and Harvey Richard.
Okay. Do you see Patricia Johnson and Richardson and Harvey Witcher here today?
Yes,
Where do you see them?
right here.
All right. Identifying for the record, Ms. Johnson and Ms. Witcher. There's 2 males, correct, sitting at the table?
Yes.
Is Mr. Witcher the one who's closest to you or further away from you?
Can you repeat that, please?
Yes. Is Mr. Witcher the one who's closer to you or further away from you?
Further away.
All right. Identifying for the record, Mr. Witcher, Your Honor.
Record was over.
The other male who's there, do you know him?
Yes,
What's his name?
Robert Richards.
Okay.
Richardson.
And how do you know him?
He's Patricia's husband.
Right. So and do you know where he lived on January 16, 2014?
Yes.
Where?
Tuxedo.
Do you know where Ms. Johnson lived on January 16, 2014?
Yes.
Where?
Tuxedo.
And do you know where Mr. Harvey Witcher lived on January 16, 2014?
Yes.
Where?
Tuxedo.
All right. How was your son also there on January 16, 2014?
From my knowledge, yes.
Why do you believe that your son was there that day?
Because when I got dropped off, I'm not really understanding because I didn't actually drop him off there.
Okay. What'd you do? Just tell
I
me.
got dropped off at work, and him and his grandma went back, I guess.
You got dropped off by work by who?
Patricia.
And was Jamel with you?
Yes.
And that, I'm talking about your little boy now.
Yes.
All right. So his grandmother dropped you at work with Jamel in the car. Is that right?
Yes.
And you left and went into work, right?
Yes.
And where'd you leave Jamel?
In the car.
With who?
Patricia.
And about what time would that have been?
Like around 2:30, 2:35.
In the afternoon?
Mm-hmm.
Did you work like a regular full-time job?
Yes.
Did you have a routine or practice of leaving Jamel with certain people at a certain location?
Yes.
Every day that you worked?
Yes.
Tell us what your routine and practice was of where you left Jamel routinely when you worked.
Normally, I'll go to work, and his grandma will pick him up from school, and he'll go to her house from there.
Okay, and where was her house?
Tuxedo.
Okay, and did you pick him up? Did you routinely pick him up at his grandmother's house?
Yes.
And who was routinely there when you would pick him up?
His grandma.
And who else?
Patricia, Robert, and Harvey.
All right. And if this tragedy didn't happen, what were you planning to do that day?
I would have picked him up from his grandma's house normally.
Okay, on Tuxedo.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Who was supposed to be watching him when he was at his grandma's house when you were at work?
I'll say all 3 of them. I mean, it's
Did they all 3 routinely watch your child while you worked?
yes.
And, Your Honor, I don't have anything else in this house.
All right.
Tubbs, you indicated that Ms. Johnson would, that it was your understanding that Ms. Johnson would normally pick up Jamal at school.
Yes.
And what time was that?
He got out of school at 2:45.
Okay. Was the, on the day that this happened, was it a school day?
Yes.
Was he at school?
No.
And prior to you getting dropped off at work, you were with Ms. Johnson,
No, I was at home.
with Jamal?
No, Jamel was at her home with her.
Okay. And how long he had been at her home?
He spent the night.
Okay. And, all right, let's back up. What's your relationship with Ms. Johnson,
No, that's my mother-in-law.
your mother-in-law? Right, she's not your mother, she is Jamal's father's mother?
Yes.
Okay. And you routinely, regularly had her babysitting for Jamal?
Yes.
And you were comfortable with that arrangement?
Yes.
How long had she been doing that?
Since the school year started.
Since the school year started. And when did the school year start? Was it, August or September?
September.
Okay. So at least for a number of months.
Yeah.
And everything was going according to your satisfaction.
Yes.
You are familiar with the home that she lived in?
Yes.
And do you know when Jamal was at the house, first of all, were there usually other children there?
Yes.
And who were the other children who were usually there?
Janila and Jermaine.
And who are they?
They're his little cousins, his cousins.
They were cousins of
Mhm.
Jamal's, and you knew them to frequently be there also?
Yes.
She would babysit for them also?
Yes.
Okay. And were you ever at the house when Jamal and his cousins were there?
Yes.
When they were at the house, where would you generally see them? Would they play in the kitchen or in the living room? Where would they routinely hang out, if you know?
In the living room.
And in the living room, was there, is that where they had activities?
Yes.
And she being Miss Johnson, would normally pick Jamal up at school, and do you know what time that was?
2:45.
All right, and then you would pick him up when you got off work,
Mhm.
and what time was that?
11:48.
So she would normally be with him during those hours?
Yes.
And was it usual or unusual for him to spend the night?
Sometimes he'll spend the night. It depends if I'm working late.
Okay. And do you know strike that. When you would go to pick up Jamal, would there be times that he would be sleeping?
Yes.
And when he would be sleeping, where would he sleep?
On a couch.
In the living room?
Mhm.
The other children who were there, would you see occasions when they would also spend the night?
No, not really.
Okay. Do you know how many bedrooms are in the home?
Yes.
How many bedrooms are in the home?
2.
And are either of those bedrooms rooms that the children routinely played in?
I don't know.
You know that there are 2 bedrooms.
Yes.
Do you know whose bedrooms they are?
I don't know.
Okay. Thank you. I have no further questions.
Tubbs, Mr. Richardson, now he's not the grandfather, he was not the grandfather of Jamal, is that right?
Yeah, that's correct.
So he wasn't related to Jamal at all?
No.
Had you ever asked Mr. Richardson to babysit your children, to babysit Jamal?
No.
How long had you known Mr. Richardson?
Couple years.
And during that time, had you ever left your child with Mr. Richardson?
No.
When Mrs. Johnson would pick up Jamal from school, was it your understanding that she would be babysitting with him?
Yes, but it's not uncommon for her to run an errand and leave him there with him.
Well, were you there when she would run the errands?
No.
But you yourself never left Jamal with Mr. Richardson?
No.
Now, you said that Jamal had spent the night before,
Yes.
and what time did your Miss Johnson take you to work?
2:35.
So Jamal hadn't gone to school that day.
No.
She came and picked you up and then dropped you off at work.
Yes.
And she was alone in the car with Jamal at that time.
Yes.
I have nothing further, Your Honor.
Just a couple. Ms. Johnson, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
I'm Ms. Thompson, I'm sorry.
Tubbs.
Oh, Thomas, I'm sorry. Sorry about that, good afternoon. My question relates to the gentleman at the end, you know, is Mr. Witcher. Now, you didn't have any specific agreement with Mr. Witcher that he was gonna look after your son, correct?
No.
Okay. And you know that he is, he's also, got some illness. He's a
Yes.
sick man, right? Okay, that's all, thank you.
Ma'am, was there to the best of your knowledge, was there a functioning television in the living room of that house?
I don't know.
Do you know where the children would go to watch TV?
Normally they would watch TV in the living room, but from my understanding, the TV was broke.
Okay. Do you know where they were watching TV at when they couldn't watch in the living room?
I don't know.
You don't know? Where was the other television in the home?
In one of the bedrooms.
Whose bedroom?
One of the bedrooms that's in the hallway.
Well, I know they're off the hallway. Whose bedroom was the TV in?
I don't know whose bedroom that was. I don't go to the bedroom parts. I just go to the living rooms.
Okay. Do you know who shared bedrooms there?
Yes.
Who shared bedrooms there?
Harvey and Patricia shared a room, and then Robert had his own room.
Okay. So Robert,
Harvey and Patricia shared the bedroom, and Robert had his own room.
all right. That's it. Thank you, Your Honor.
Anything from?
Look, just so I'm clear,
You don't know if on this date and time there was a TV in the living room,
No.
whether it was working or not working?
From my understanding, it wasn't working.
From your understanding,
Yeah.
but you don't
But I don't know for myself.
Okay. From your own knowledge, you don't know what the situation was regarding the TV on that date? and
That
time?
is correct.
Thank you, nothing further.
Nothing further, Your Honor.
Thank you.
No, my position is the same, Judge.
Okay.
Can I have a standing objection? You have to consider the motion. Thank you.
Officer Johanna Todd.
Can we take 2 seconds?
Yeah, I have no problem. There's a
She's
couple
about-
people that need to utilize various facilities, so the patient officer will take about 2 or 3 minutes. And
That's fine.
anybody else that the fellows need to take a break or something. Couple minutes.
Kelly. Write down the name. Okay, it's Karen, C-A-R-I-N, Goldfarb, G-O-L-D-F-A-R-B. No, he's an officer. I'm an assistant officer. I am, that's why I'm, it's, asking the questions. How are you? I'm good, how are you? I'm all right. What are you looking for? I don't have one from her. I don't think anybody took one from her. Yeah. I have her, two officers, more officers for 2 statements from the other 2 defendants, plus Bowser, Brian Bowser, for the scene, but the bullet wound was 19 inches from the floor, basically. Yeah, he's not an inspector, he's a sergeant at homicide, but he was there when the other inspector were there. All right, and, you know, they gathered some stuff in the room, prescription levels of the clients and stuff. On Richard, that there was a gun, AK-47 and plane being loaded in the bedroom. Leaving it accessible to children that he knew were there. Who said he knew that the gun was there? Well, I mean, no, we do not give a statement that he knew the gun was there. But that he, what? In his
swear or affirm testimony about to give you the truth?
I do.
Make yourself known.
Tell us your name for the record, please.
Wait a minute, she's gotta get-
Oh, sorry.
No, you hold that, you hold that.
I hold this one? Okay. Officer Johanna Todd.
Okay. Officer Todd, on January 16th of 2014, do you have an opportunity to respond to an address known as 7125 Tuxedo?
I did.
And was that in the course of your duties as a Detroit police officer?
Yes.
What were you working for Detroit Police at that time?
I was working Scout 1032.
And how long have you been with Detroit Police as of that day?
5 years.
Were you working with a partner?
I was.
And as working a scout, you were in uniform and in a marked vehicle, correct?
I was in plain clothes with badge hanging.
All right. And
It's in a semi-marked scout car.
all right. And when you entered, did you enter this Tuxedo residence?
I did.
Was that as a result of a call?
It was.
When you entered, did somebody let you in?
The front door was open when we entered.
All right. And you entered with your partner?
Yes.
Was there other Detroit police officers there at that time?
Yes, there was.
Do you remember how many were there?
There was approximately 4 other officers in addition to my partner and I.
All right. When you entered, did you see any adults that you see in this courtroom today?
Yes.
Who did you see there?
I see the gentleman sitting in the yellow in front of the defense table.
Okay. Identified for the record, Mr. Richardson, Your Honor. Did you see other people?
Yes.
What, were they adults or children?
Children.
How old? Do you know?
The oldest one was 7,
And do you
and
remember his name?
that was Jermaine.
Okay.
I can refer for the last name.
That's all right.
That was Jermaine Green.
Okay.
Main
And
Green.
I'm sorry,
that
Jermaine.
was
Yes,
a male,
Jermaine.
is that right? A male?
That's correct.
7-year-old?
Male, 7-year-old.
Did you see any other children?
Yes, his younger sister,
Okay. And are you able to approximate the age of that child?
4 years old.
And when you were there, was there a body?
Yes, there was.
And where was this body located?
Laying in the bedroom on the floor.
And was it a child's body?
Yes.
Was it plain to you that that child was deceased?
Yes.
You say that he was laying on the floor in the bedroom. Is that right?
That is correct.
Where was he laying in relationship to the bed in the bedroom?
Just inside the doorway between the bed and there's a wall with a TV stand.
When you walk into the residence, are there 2 bedrooms?
Yes.
Do you recall the location of this bedroom that you saw the body in relationship to the other bedroom? Is there any way you can describe that for us?
Yes, there's a hallway that connects the 2 bedrooms. The bedrooms are off of a dining room. There's a hallway that goes along the side of the dining room with a bathroom in between the 2 bedrooms. So there's a bedroom, a bathroom, and a bedroom.
Okay, and was this the first bedroom that you hit off the dining room or the second one?
It's the first one.
And you said there was a TV in there?
Yes.
Did you hear, were the children that you saw, the 4-year-old child, female child in particular, did she make any statements that you heard?
Yes.
And did she appear to be excited or upset when she was making statements?
She was very excited.
In what way? Can you tell us?
Very nervous, upset, but not fully comprehending what was happening around her.
Okay. Do you remember if she was crying?
Not crying.
Okay. But
It-
what makes you call her nervous and upset? Can you describe it?
She was very anxious.
In what way? I mean, I understand that you're
There-
summarizing her. What did you
Okay.
see that made you come to that conclusion?
She was asking me a lot of questions. What's going on? I don't know what's going on. Where's Junior? Those kinds of questions. And she made statements to the effect, I shot
I
Junior.
object,
I'm sorry.
Your Honor.
The objection versus hearsay.
Right, and I would say that, I would argue that it's an incited utterance under the circumstances.
I'm gonna take a little of this just so I see where we're going here, but I understand your concern.
Should I continue?
Just the one point, Your Honor, is
Right.
that this child was being questioned by the police. This child.
I got you. I just wanna see where we're going here. Right now, I've got a youngster who's simply asking questions.
Yeah,
Yes.
were you asking her questions, or was she making, was it some other way that this was happening?
All right, well, she started asking questions first. What's going on? Why is everybody here? And I asked her then what happened.
Okay, and did she continue to be upset and excited when she was answering this, when she was talking to you?
Yes.
Okay, and did you ask her any more than what's happened?
Yes, I asked her what happened, and she responded, I shot Junior dead.
Again, same objection.
Objection's duly noted. Now we got a problem. Do I have a hearsay exception, and what would be the exception?
Well, it would be her state of mind. I shot Junior dead. It's not going to the truth of the matter. It's her state of mind that she
All right,
shot him dead.
I'll take it for that limited purpose.
All right.
Your Honor, just for the record, I don't think the child's state of mind at that point is relevant to any issue.
I understand what your concern is, and we'll see how this is all gonna pull together.
Did you see a gun there?
Yes,
Where did you see a gun?
in the basement.
All right. Now, how did it come about that somebody went to the basement to recover a gun?
I went to the basement before I talked to the girl. When we arrive at a location that there's a shooting, we have an obligation to find out whether or not there's additional victims in the house, additional suspects that may still be unaccounted for. And so we need to do just a real quick search of the house and residence to find out if there's anybody else inside of the house. When I came into the kitchen area, another officer was questioning Mr. Richardson about what had occurred. Based upon what Mr. Richardson replied to that officer, I went to the basement with my partner.
Now, Mr. Richardson, in your report it says Mr. Benjamin. Is that?
That was a mistake. That's his middle name.
All right, so his middle name is Benjamin, and in your report you said Benjamin, but you meant to say Mr. Richardson?
I meant to say Mr. Richardson.
All right. The person you heard tell where this gun is, do you see him in court?
Yes.
Well, I'm going to object to that characterization. I don't think there's been any.
I'm not sure you even have that
All right.
standing. If Ms. Reed's witness,
All right.
Mr. Reed's client.
Let me see. When you heard somebody talking to the person who you called Mr. Benjamin in your report, but you identified as who?
Mr. Richardson.
And Mr. Richardson, the person you see in court, or somebody
Yes.
else? And you heard Mr. Richardson say what?
That it,
I'm taking it only as to him. I'm not taking it as it applies to your client, Ms. Memory.
Your Honor, at this point, I don't know if Mr. Richardson was in custody
Well,
and
I
been Mirandized.
understand, although he certainly wasn't at a police station, was he?
I know, I understand that, but there was a house full of police officers, armed, I'm sure.
I give you, but ask the simple, was there anyone under arrest at that?
Was anyone under arrest, handcuffed, or
no, I did not see him in handcuffs.
did you put him under arrest?
No, I was not directly having contact with him.
All right, did you see, what officer do you recall having contact with him?
I believe it was Officer Blanding.
All right, did you see Officer Blanding place him in cuffs?
Not at that time.
Did he have a weapon drawn?
No, not as I recall.
Did anybody in your presence have any weapons drawn?
I don't recall if anybody did.
All right. Where was Mr. Richardson when he was talking to Officer Blanding?
In the kitchen.
Okay, was he sitting, standing, or what in the kitchen?
He was kind of half sitting. I think there was a stack of milk crates that he was sort of leaned up against.
Was he in any way restrained in the kitchen against these milk crates?
No.
All right. You heard him make some statements to Officer Blanding, is that right?
Correct.
And what did you hear him tell Officer Blanding?
I'll take it.
That the gun was in the basement under the stairs.
Okay. And do you remember if he told Officer Blanding how that gun got in the basement and under the stairs?
I didn't hear that part at that time.
All right. Do you recall if there was do you recall seeing the gun?
Yes.
Do you recall if the gun had any kind of safety on it of any kind?
No.
No what? You don't recall or no it did
I don't
not?
recall.
All right.
I didn't handle the weapon at all.
All right. Was it handled in your presence?
Yes, my partner retrieved it from under the stairs.
And did you see if your partner did anything with regard to making it safe?
I know that he removed the magazines.
He did remove magazines. So there were magazines in it?
Yes.
All right. Did you see that
I
happen?
take it that it's a handgun then?
No,
Right,
sir.
I shouldn't assume that.
No, it was a rifle.
It was, okay,
Okay.
thank you.
Can you describe what it looked like for the board?
It was a long black handgun, and it had 2 banana clips that were taped together. So when the one banana clip runs out, you flip it over and you can reload it real fast without dropping the magazine.
Are you familiar with what kind of gun it is in your training?
I know it's a rifle. I don't know specifics about it.
Okay. And you saw in your presence your partner retrieve these magazines out of it?
Yes.
All right. Did it have anything on it that would prevent this gun from being fired that you saw?
Not that I'm aware of.
All right. I have nothing further.
I have no questions, thank you.
No questions, Your Honor.
Thank you, officer.
You can have Officer Shea.
Sure.
Scott Shea.
Shay?
Now, my position is when a witness is finished, they're welcome to stay, they're welcome to leave. We're not asking them to stay around the building or anything of that.
I'm not concerned whether they leave the building or not. I'm concerned if they stay in the courtroom
Oh, I
and
may
they're gonna
have
testify.
misspoken. Yes, they're excused from the courtroom, but they're free to leave.
That's correct, Your Honor.
Okay, thank you.
He took your time statement. Oh.
Give your name and number.
First name is Scott, last name is Shea, S-H-E-A.
Let me have this up there.
Solemnly swear or affirm testimony about to give.
Yes, Your Honor, I do.
Make sure. Now, you get 2 microphones, that one's for the court reporter and that other one's for the courtroom, so we gotta. That should do it. Let's
Okay.
see how it goes.
All right, tell me your name.
Scott Shea,
And how are you employed?
City of Detroit Police Department,
How long have you been with the city of Detroit?
almost 18 years.
How long have you been, where are you assigned?
Homicide,
How long have you been with homicide?
almost 8.5 years.
And Officer Shea, did you have an opportunity to talk over at the homicide unit with somebody who became known to you as Robert Richardson?
Yes, I did.
Do you see Mr. Richardson in court today?
I do.
And where is he seated?
He's sitting at the defense counsel table, wearing a yellow Wayne County Jail prisoner outfit.
Okay, where were you when you talked to Mr. Richardson?
I was at our headquarters, located at 1301 3rd Street.
Would it be fair to say you were in an interrogation room?
Yes,
Okay, and would it be, and that's there's video in that interrogation room, is that correct?
That room is recorded as well, correct?
All right, and before you talked to Mr. Richardson over there, did you advise him of anything?
I did.
What did you advise him of?
I advised him of his constitutional rights.
And how did you do that, sir?
The city of Detroit has a pre-printed form out advising people of their constitutional rights. It's typed out. I had Mr. Richardson read his rights aloud, and if he understood his rights, I had him initial by each constitutional right. That was actually on the paper.
All right, and sir, did you get some information from Mr. Richardson before you did that about whether he was able to read and write?
Correct.
Did you add, what did he tell you about that?
He said he was able to. I don't recall how far in school he said he went.
All right.
And then I did ask him if he was under the influence of drugs or alcohol and all that other stuff.
All right, sir, I'm going to show you what's been marked as People's Proposed Exhibit number 3, the first page of this. Does it refresh your recollection about what he told you about his educational background and whether or not he was under the influence of alcohol and drugs at that time?
Yes, it does.
What does it tell you? How does it refresh your recollection?
Because it's what he told me,
All right, and what did he tell you, sir?
that he did read his constitutional rights, he understood them, he was not under the influence of drugs or alcohol, and he obtained his GED.
All right, and did he place his initials again, besides each and every one of the rights?
Correct, and then he signed the form as well, and then so did I.
All right. Do you recall what time and what date you and Mr. Richardson signed the constitutional rights form?
I don't recall off the top of my head what day and time it was.
All right, I report to you the witness, Your Honor.
It was January 16th, 2014 at approximately 7:03 p.m.
All right, and then you proceeded to take both a written and oral statement from Mr. Richardson, is that correct?
Yes, after we went over, first thing we did was go over his rights. Then I spoke with Mr. Richardson, and then from there, I put everything down in question and answer form.
All right, but you wrote it out, but it also was recorded, is that right?
That's correct.
I'm going to show you, this isn't marked, but is this a download of what would have been taken from the recording equipment over there at headquarters?
Yes,
Okay, and it's on, the original's on an evidence tape number, is that right?
that is correct.
All right. Your Honor, at this time, I would ask Dr. Officer Shea to read in to the record the statement from Mr. Richardson, which would be part of People's Proposed Exhibit number 3, but first I deal with regard to his constitutional rights and voluntariness.
Let me ask you, you're offering this,
Against Mr.
I'm going to
Richardson
assume
only.
it's not exculpatory, so let's assume it's an inculpatory statement. You're offering it only as it relates to Mr. Richardson?
Only as to Mr. Richardson, yes, Your Honor.
So do we understand that? So I'll look to Ms. Reed. Do you have any objection?
Your Honor, I would reserve my objections until and if this matter gets into the circuit court.
All right.
All right. All right. I'm going to show Ms. Reed what is marked as People's Proposed Exhibit number 3. Ask her if she has any objection to its admission at this time.
I'm reserving.
But just, I suppose she just wants you, you've seen
Oh,
this?
I've seen it. I have a copy of it.
Okay, great.
All right.
It'll be received.
Thank you. Officer Shea, you said that you wrote these things out in question and answer format. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Do you have a copy right there?
I do now.
Okay, thank you. Can you tell us the questions and answers that you asked Mr. Richardson?
I could. Would you like me to?
I would enjoy that. I would
Sure.
appreciate it, Mr. Officer Shea. Thank you.
Okay. Question, sir, did we go over your constitutional rights tonight? Answer, yeah. Question, do you understand your rights? Answer, yeah, I understand them. Question, can you tell me how Jamil got shot? Answer, I was at home. It was me, Patricia, her husband Harvey, and the 3 kids, Jamil, Janicia, and Jermaine. Patricia asked me if I could watch the kids while she and Harvey ran an errand. There is only one TV in the house that works, and that's in Patricia's room. I made myself a sandwich, then went into Patricia's room to watch TV. All 3 kids were watching TV. Jermaine, all 3 kids were watching TV. Jermaine at some point went into the front room to lay down. At first, the kids, Junior and Janicia, were on the bed watching TV. Then they ended up on the floor.
And that's the end of the first page, is
That is
right?
correct.
And is there a signature at the bottom?
That it is, and it's also dated and timed as well.
Okay. Did somebody place their signature on there in your presence?
Mr. Richardson did.
And what was the date and time, sir?
1/16/2014 at 8:53 p.m.
All right, and where it says, she and Harvey went to run, that's supposed to say errand?
I meant to say errand. They went to run an errand.
They didn't go to an arraignment?
No.
Okay.
Sorry.
Okay. All right. And page 2.
Page 2. Question, please continue. Answer. They were playing on the floor. I told them to get back on the bed. Janicia got up first, and Junior was behind her. The next thing I hear a pop. Junior slumped to where I was, and he collapsed. I'm sorry, stumbled to where I was, and he collapsed. I lifted up his shirt and saw a hole. I immediately called Patricia, then I called 911. The police were at my house first. Question, who lives with you on Tuxedo? Answer, it's my place, so me, Patricia, and Harvey. Question, how do you know Patricia? Answer, we used to be married. Question, how long have Patricia and Harvey been living with you? Answer, a month. Question, why? Answer, they had to move, plus I needed someone to stay with me. Question, why do you need someone to stay with you? Answer, because I'm very sick. I have liver cancer. The VA hospital wants someone to look after me. Question, who is Junior? Page 3. Answer, that's Jamil. Question, what time did Junior get to your house? Excuse me. Answer, he came over Wednesday night. Question, what about the 2 other kids? When did they get there? Answer, today about 4 o'clock in the afternoon. Question, who brought Janicia and Jermaine to your house? Answer, I don't know, a friend of their mother's. Question, how long have you lived on Tuxedo? Answer, like 6 to 7 years, but I've got back there maybe 4 months ago. Question, do you have any weapons at the house? Answer, no. Question, explain how the weapon got into your house then. Answer, I don't know. Question, describe this weapon you saw in Patricia's room. Answer, a rifle. Question, when did you first see or notice the rifle? Answer, something like 3 or 4 days ago, maybe 5 days. Question, where in the room was the rifle? Page 4. Answer, on the floor next to the bed near the wall. Between the bed and the wall, and in parentheses I had, but right next to the bed. Question, how did you first observe the rifle? Explain, please. Answer, I was in Patricia's room. Her and Harvey were playing cards. I was sitting in the chair watching TV. I looked on the side of the bed, and that's when I saw the rifle. Question, did you ever say anything to Patricia or Harvey about this rifle? Answer, no. Question, did Patricia or Harvey tell you they were bringing a rifle into your house? Answer, no. Question, did you see either child today go near the rifle? Answer, no, I did not. Question, where were you sitting on the bed when you heard the pop? Answer, I was sitting at the corner of the bed toward the end near the door. Question, did you see the rifle on the floor today? Answer, yes, after I heard the pop, before the police arrived. Question, did you observe either child go near or touch the rifle? Page 5, excuse me. Answer, no, I did not. Question, do you wish to add anything to your statement? Answer, no, that's it. Question, did you read over your statement tonight? Answer, yes, I read it. Question, is everything you told me been the truth? Answer, yes, honest to God.
And we mentioned that it was signed on the first 2 pages. Was it signed on each of the 5 pages?
Yes, each page is signed by Mr. Richardson and then timed and dated. Actually, I wrote the time and date in myself, but that was the time the interview concluded.
Okay, and so the interview, the Advice of Rights indicates 7:03, and the interview time that you wrote as the conclusion time was 8:53 p.m. Is that right?
That's correct.
All right. Your Honor, I'm moving for admission of People's Exhibit number 3, and I have no further questions of Officer Schein.
I'll receive it.
I have no questions.
Thank you, Officer.
Thank you, Judge.
Okay, what do you want?
Okay, Bowser. Could you start to Bowser? Yes. It's a prisoner. It's, well.
You're all set? Officer, if you'll come up, then I guess I'll give you name my reporter.
Yes, sir. Brian, with an I? Bowser, W-S.
And raise your right hand. Solemnly swear or affirm testimony about to give this truth.
Yes, sir.
Make yourself comfortable. I made the assumption that you're being an officer, but I don't know the place.
Yes, sir.
We'll find out.
Sergeant Bowser?
There you are.
Yes, ma'am.
You're gonna need to bring that, you got the one mic just for the court reporter, so hang on
I
to that.
gotcha.
That's so she can record your
Okay.
testimony. The other one's gotta swing around so that I can hear you. Thank you.
Sergeant Bowser?
Yes, ma'am.
You employed with anybody?
City of Detroit.
How long?
I'm in my 18th year now.
And how long you've been, you're assigned to homicide, correct?
Correct.
And how long you been with homicide?
I'm in my 6th year.
All right. Sir, as part of your duties with the homicide section, did you go to an address known as 7125 Tuxedo on or about January 15th, 2014?
I did.
And what was your purpose in going there?
I was notified that a fatal shooting had occurred there, and my team, Team 3 of the homicide section, has responsibility for investigating all homicides in the 10th and 12th precinct. The Tuxedo location is in the 10th precinct, therefore I notified my team and we responded.
All right. And did you meet your team there, or did you go with them?
We were in 2 parts. Myself and Sergeant McGinnis drove together.
All right. When you and Sergeant McGinnis did you notice anything besides a bullet strike that would lead you to believe a shooting had occurred in the bedroom? While there was blood, there was a bullet strike. Was there any other evidence of a shooting in that room? What about casing?
Yes, there was a spent casing next to the bed. It was between the west edge of the bed and the west wall of the bedroom.
All right. Do you recall what kind of casing it was?
It was a 7.62 by 39.
All right. And in your experience, what kind of weapon would a 7.62 by 39 come from? A casing that is a 7.62 by 39.
Most commonly, that's encountered with AK-47 or SKS type assault rifles.
Okay. And you know that as
You may have said, was there a casing or multiple?
There was one spent casing
One casing.
on the floor.
And was there other ammunition as well?
Yes.
Was that ammunition related to the, was that ammunition the same kind as the 7.62 by 39 or not?
Now, there was 7.62 by 39 rounds recovered, but that was recovered by Officer Denard.
Okay. And you did not see them?
Well, I saw them, yeah, but they were not in the bedroom at
All
that
right, they were
point.
not, okay, they were not in the bedroom. Do you remember where they were?
Officer Denard had that secured. He was by the front entry door.
Okay. Do you recall if there was a television that was in the living room of this dwelling?
Yes, there was a large screen television.
Do you know if it was working or not?
I do not. I was told it was not, but I did not try to turn it on or turn it off.
Okay. In the bedroom where you were, was that TV on or off when you were there?
In the north side bedroom, there was a TV in the corner. It was turned on, and the volume was turned on.
That's it for Sergeant Bowser.
Thank you, Sergeant Bowser. When you get to the scene, you are not the first officer at the scene.
That's correct.
Other officers were already present.
I was the first homicide personnel at the scene.
Okay, but there were other officers who were already there.
Yes.
What were they doing, if you recall, when you arrived?
Securing the crime scene, knocking on doors for the canvas.
Okay, so there were officers outside, you know, checking to see if there were any people outside who saw or heard anything, right?
Correct.
And were there officers inside?
Yes.
And the officers you saw inside were doing what?
Officer Denard was securing the weapon in the front door. Officer Todd was with the two youngsters in the living room of the location. There was two officers in the back of the house with Mr. Richardson. And he was basically sitting on a stool or a chair in the kitchen area.
Okay, and just so I'm clear, when you arrived, Miss Patricia Johnson was not there, is that correct?
I was told that she was present in a car parked down at the corner of the street.
She was not in the location?
That's correct.
Okay. And so when you arrive, you're with a partner?
Yes.
And who are you with?
Sergeant McGinnis.
Thank you. And so you are directed to a certain location, is that correct?
Correct.
Is it fair to say that at that point EMS had come and gone?
Yes.
All right. So you did not see a body or anybody who was injured in the home?
No.
Okay. So at the time you get there, you proceed to start conducting your work. Is that correct?
Yes.
Are you directed toward any particular location in the home?
Well, our standard protocol is when you arrive at the scene, you talk to the officers that are primary, the secondary, and or the supervisor that's there.
And they give you information?
And they give you a brief rundown of what they saw, what they did, the layout of the scene, and then you do an inspection of the scene.
Sure. So based on the information you received, do you go to a specific location within the home?
Yes.
And where do you go?
It's the north side bedroom.
Okay. And when you get into the bedroom, is there anyone in the bedroom?
No.
Okay. And in this room, you indicated there was a bed.
Yes.
Is there a dresser?
There was two nightstands type things next to the bed. There was a chair, TV stand. I don't recall a dresser being there, like a classic full-size dresser.
Okay. And is there a table of some kind in the room?
Yes.
And you indicated there was a TV.
Yes.
Is the TV on that table?
The TV was on a table it would be the southwest corner.
Okay. Is there an additional table in addition to the one that the TV was on?
There was two nightstands, I guess
Okay.
you could call them tables.
Okay.
To either side of the head of the bed.
Okay. And that's what you recall in terms of the furnishings in the room?
Yes.
Okay. There is a closet in the room?
Yes,
Did you go into the closet?
yes.
And in the closet, are there clothes?
There was quite a large amount of clothes,
Okay.
yes.
And just so I'm clear, when I say closet, describe that closet to me if you could. Does it have a door on it?
It has a door on it.
And when you see the door, the first time you see the door, is the door open or closed?
It's open.
All right. And do you know how that door got opened or closed before you got there?
I do not.
All right. You don't know if one of the officers who was there before you opened the door to look to see what was in the closet? Maybe as they were doing a search to see if there were any weapons or...
I can't answer that question, ma'am.
Okay. But normal protocol would be for the first officers who arrive at the scene to search for, people who are injured or people who may be hiding.
Absolutely.
Or weapons that are on the scene.
Yes, ma'am.
And it would be normal procedure for them to look in a closet to see if there are weapons. Is that fair?
Yes, but in a limited fashion. It would be more of a protective sweep rather than a search.
Exactly, because the first officer would do what you described as a protective sweep.
Correct.
Okay.
That's what they should be doing, yes.
Sure, okay. So when you get to that room, when you first see that closet, the door is open.
Yes.
All right. And you don't know what search of that closet protective sweep had been done before you got there. Is that fair?
I was told that there was no persons in the closet and no weapons visible in the closet.
Okay. And you took that for your purposes, that a protective sweep had been done.
Yes.
All right. And so do you, in fact, though, search further into the closet?
Once the search warrant was ran and signed, we did a thorough search of the entire premises.
Okay.
I'm sorry, let me retract that. The entire lower flat and the basement area.
Okay. Now, you indicated when you arrived, you saw what you believed to be a bullet hole in the wall.
Yes.
And that you were present when that was measured to be 19 inches from the ground.
Correct.
Is that correct? Now, you also indicated that it appeared perpendicular.
It struck the wall perpendicular to the surface of the wall.
Okay. And just so I'm clear on what that means, how can you tell if it was perpendicular or otherwise?
Well, all you have to do is inspect the hole. If the hole is going at an upward angle or a downward angle, that would not be perpendicular. Perpendicular would be, if I took a pen and stuck it,
Okay.
if this is the wall, it would be like that.
Okay.
Level with the ground and perpendicular to the wall, means a 90-degree angle.
Okay. And that, when your visual inspection of that, that's what that indicated to you?
Yes.
Okay. And did you, in fact, did you yourself recover the bullet, or was that something that was done in your presence?
It was done in my presence. It was actually conducted by Officer Fitzhugh.
Okay.
Fitzhugh, Fitzhugh. H-U-G-H, yeah, Fitzhugh, yep.
Thank you. I have nothing further.
No questions, Your Honor.
I don't know.
Nothing further, sir.
Thank you, officer.
Thanks, sir. Sorry.
Officer Mott.
First name is Patrick, D-E-T. R-S-E-K. Last name is Smart, M-A-T-T.
Solemnly swear or affirm testimony about to give you the truth.
I do.
Officer Mott, what do you do for a living?
I'm a police officer with the city of Detroit, assigned to the homicide section as a homicide detective.
Okay. How long have you been with the City of Detroit?
14 years,
How long have you been with homicide?
1 year.
Right. Sir, are you what's known as the officer in charge of this case?
Yes,
All right. Do you know these defendants?
yes.
All right. Can you tell us, have you, prior to today, you've seen them all, is that right?
Patricia Richardson and Mr. Richardson.
Okay. You never saw Mr. Witcher before?
No,
Okay. Did you have an opportunity to take a statement from somebody?
yes.
Who?
Patricia Ann Richardson.
Did you see her?
Yes. She's sitting at the defense table in a burgundy top, black pants, black boots.
Before taking her statement, did you advise her of anything?
Yes.
What?
I advised her of her constitutional rights. Detroit Police Department has a constitutional right form. I had her to read the rights out loud, and she affixed her initials next to each statement that she read and understood.
All right. And was that statement actually recorded as well?
Yes.
I'm going to show you. This is going to be number 7, Your Honor, because I can't find my own. Do you have the exhibit?
Oh, I had to use my
Oh,
copy. It's
okay.
mine.
All right.
I marked
I
yours.
have it.
Oh, you have it?
Yeah. I'm gonna, let me see. This is gonna be People's Exhibit number 2. Did you advise her on Detroit Police Constitutional Rights Form?
I did.
All right. Did she tell you that she could read and write?
Yes.
Prior to taking a statement from her? Did she tell you that she wanted to give you a statement?
Yeah.
Time.
No.
I'll use the floor here, Your Honor.
Any questions?
Not at this time.
Sir, what did she tell you, if you recall, with regard to, did you ask her about a gun that was in the house?
Yes.
What did she tell you with regard to that gun, about that gun?
Ms. Richardson stated that
Your Honor, I'm assuming that this is coming in.
Taking it
Only as to Ms. Richardson.
strictly as it relates to her.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mrs. Richardson stated that the firearm came into the house around about December 2nd of 2013.
Okay? And did she tell you where in the house this weapon was kept?
It was stored in her room that she shared with her boyfriend.
And who was her boyfriend, did she tell you?
Mr. Richards?
Mr. Witcher?
Richard
Which one?
Harvey, I believe is his first name.
Okay.
Judge, if I might, these statements that the officer has alleged were made by Ms. Johnson, I'd ask if there is any written recording of these statements.
Is there a written recording of the statements?
Yeah, the statement was memorialized by a DVR recording.
Okay.
So the answer is there's a DVR, but not a written, written statement.
Correct.
It's just a DVR statement.
All right, I just wanted to verify.
So it's an oral statement that was recorded by DVR.
And has it been downloaded?
Yes.
And, Your Honor, for the record, it has been provided to counsel as well.
Okay.
Did she give you, she told you, what did she tell me she told you about the weapon?
That she brought the weapon in the house around about December 2nd, 2013. It was given to her. I need to refresh my recollection with some information that I presented to her.
All right. Did you have her, like, identify some pictures and sign them?
Yes.
All right. Did she sign, was there some question and answers on each one of the photographs that you had, and you had her sign them?
Yes.
All right, I'm going to show you, again, People's Proposed Exhibit number 2, and ask you if you're familiar with all 3 of those pages.
think it's 4 altogether, but,
All right, well, one of them's a constitutional right form, is that
correct.
right?
Yes.
All right, so what picture was the first one you showed?
The first photo that I presented to Ms. Richardson was a photo of Robert Richardson.
Okay, and did you ask her some questions?
Yes, I asked 3 questions as in reference to the photo.
What'd you ask her?
The first question, do you know this person? Ms. Richardson's answer was, that's Robert. Question 2, how do you know Robert? The answer is, I am married to him. Question, is this the person you left the kids with while there was a gun in the house? And her answer was yes.
Okay, what's the next one?
The next photo that I presented to Mrs. Richardson was a photo of a Tyrell Harris. And I asked her some questions as it relates to that photo that I presented to her. First question, do you know this person? Question, her answer to that question was Tyrell. Question, where do you know this person from? Her answer was my daughter's kid's father. And question 3 is this the person that you received the gun from? And the answer is actually cut off from this document that I have here, this copy document that I have here.
Okay, and what was the answer?
Yes.
All right, and then what's the other one?
The last photo that I presented to Mrs. Richardson was Harvey Richards. And the questions that I asked in relationship to that photo that I presented to her was question 1, do you know this person?
Did you say Harvey Richards?
Richards.
And I think it's clear that I'm not admitting these with regard to anybody else other than Ms. Richardson or Ms. Johnson, or Ms. Johnson Richardson. So, go ahead.
Okay, the questions that I asked as related to the photo was question 1, do you know this person? Her answer, that's Harvey. Question, where do you know Harvey from? Her answer, he's my kid's father. Question, is Harvey the person you went with to pick up the gun from Tyrell? And her answer was yes. She signed this photo along with the date and the time.
All right, now did she tell you about what her responsibility, or what she was responsibility was with regard to any children that were in the house that day?
She was babysitting her grandchildren.
All right, and did she tell you if she knew where that gun was when she, did she tell you if she left her grandchildren in the care of someone else?
Yes.
What'd she tell you with regard to that?
She left the children with her husband while her and her boyfriend ran errands.
Okay, so she left him with her husband, who was, just so we can...
Robert Richardson.
Okay, while her and her boyfriend, who was...
Harvey Richard.
Okay, went to run errands. Is that what she told you?
Yes.
And did she tell you where this gun was when she left them?
It was left in the bedroom that her and her boyfriend shared in common.
And did she tell you if this gun was, if she knew whether this gun was loaded?
Yes.
What did she tell you about that?
She stated that the gun was loaded.
All right, and was there any, did she tell you if there was a safety of any kind on it?
I don't recall asking that question or her making any admissions to a safety being on the rifle.
Did she tell you anything with regard to the television situation in the home?
Yes.
What did she tell you with regard to that?
There was a television that was in a room that she shared in common with her boyfriend.
Okay, and what about any other working televisions?
I don't recall if she stated anything about any other working televisions in
Did
the
she
house.
tell you how many kids she left with Mr. Richardson that day?
Yes.
How many?
3.
Did she tell you how long she had been gone from the residence before something caused her to go back there?
I don't recall her answer to that.
All right. Did she tell you if she returned to the residence?
Yes.
Did she tell you why?
Yes, she received a phone call from her husband, Mr. Richardson, about a shooting that occurred at the house on Tuxedo.
Did she tell you about what time she received that?
If I recall correctly, it was approximately 4:30 p.m.
Do you remember if she told you the names of the 3 children that were left there?
I believe she did mention the first name of the children that was there.
All right, and their ages or not?
I don't recall if she gave me the ages.
All right. Do you remember the first names that she told you?
Yes. She referred to the victim as J.R. or Junior. There was also another male there by the name of Jermaine, and the young lady, third grandchild, her name was Janiyah, I believe.
Okay. All right. Your Honor, I'm going to move to admission of People's Proposed Exhibit number 2, which would be the advice of rights and three question and answer pages with photographs. Thank you. And I have nothing further.
Thank you. Detective, is it Detective?
It's also mine. It's fine.
Okay, thank you. You had contact with Miss Johnson on the 16th of January.
That's correct, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
And she was in custody.
She was.
And that's why you went through her rights with her. When somebody's in custody, you go through a process of informing them of their rights.
That's correct, ma'am.
Okay. And she answered your questions.
Yes.
And the purpose of that interview was to get certain information from her. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. And she provided that information to you.
She did.
All right. She told you that she lived, in fact, on Tuxedo.
Yes.
With Mr. Witcher and Mr. Richardson.
Correct.
Okay. And she described Mr. Richardson as being her husband.
Yes.
Is that correct? Did you learn how long they had all been living together there?
Yes.
From Miss Johnson?
Yes.
She told you?
She did.
Okay. And would she tell you how long she'd been living there?
If I recall from the interview, it was approximately a month.
Okay. And she told you that she and Mr. Witcher moved into the home of Mr. Johnson.
Yes.
Mr. Johnson being somebody that she had been married to.
Correct.
And that, did she tell you?
Mr. Richardson.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Thank
Robert
you.
Richardson.
Thank you. Mr. Richardson being somebody that she had been married to, correct?
Yes.
And so, did she tell you how long they had been living apart, separated?
Well, based on the answer that I received, I took the answer to believe that she was still currently married.
Well, she was still currently married, but they had been separated and living apart for some period of time, number of years, isn't that?
I don't remember ascertaining that information from her.
Okay. All right. Well, you, you knew that Mr. Richardson was very ill. Is that correct? Did she tell you Mr. Richardson was very ill?
She did.
And did she tell you that the reason she and Mr. Witcher had moved into the home was to care for Mr. Richardson, who was very ill?
Yes.
And that was at Mr. Richardson's request and an arrangement that worked for everybody?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And, all right, so you learned from Ms. Johnson that she and Mr. Witcher had been living in this home for about a month.
Correct.
Ms. Johnson, you said, told you that she brought a gun to the home.
Correct.
And she told you where she got the gun?
Yes.
When she had brought it to the home?
Yes.
And did she tell you where the gun was normally kept in the home?
In the bedroom that she shared with her boyfriend.
And, well, did she specifically tell you? Well, strike that. She specifically told you where in that bedroom the gun was kept, didn't she?
Yes.
She told you it was kept in the closet.
She did.
And you asked her, in fact, didn't you, how'd the gun get out of the closet?
Correct.
And she said, I don't know how it got out of the closet.
That was her response.
Okay. Did she also tell you that the children were not permitted in that bedroom?
I don't recall that from the interrogation, but...
Well, she did tell you that the children didn't play in the bedroom. They didn't go in the bedroom. She told you that, didn't she?
I don't remember.
In the living room, you indicated that well, strike that, because I don't know if you said this or not. In the living room of the home, is there in fact a big TV?
I didn't actually make the scene. My partners, Sergeant Bowser and Sergeant McGinnis, actually was the preliminary investigators on the scene.
Okay, so you don't know exactly how that home was set up?
Correct.
Where, in fact, the children's playroom was, or where, in fact, the children were allowed to go or not go within the confines of the home?
That's correct.
And, all right, you asked her when she left the home who was at the home, correct?
Yes,
And she told you who was at the home.
she did.
The children were there.
Correct.
The children that she babysat.
Correct.
The children she regularly babysat for.
That's correct.
Her grandchildren.
Her grandchildren.
And she told you who she had left the children in the care of.
Correct.
All right. And did she tell you when she left the home where the children and the person she had left them in the company of, where they were?
I don't recall asking or remember what she said as it relates to
You
where they
don't
were at.
recall her telling you that they were not in the bedroom?
I don't.
Okay. And did she tell you that the reason that she had left the home, strike that, did she tell you who she had left the home with?
Yes.
And who did she tell you she left the home with?
Her boyfriend, Harvey Richards.
Okay. Did she tell you what errand she was running?
I don't recall if she stated what specific errand that she
Did
ran
she
at.
tell you what time she left the home?
Yes.
What did she tell you about the time she left the home?
I think it was an hour before the incident,
And what time was the incident?
approximately 4:30.
And so do you recall then why she told you she had to leave the house at that time?
No.
All right. You don't recall her telling you about having to take another?
Objection, this is hearsay.
Well, I'm asking him if he recalls.
Yes. Go ahead.
Do you recall her telling you that the reason she left was to take another daughter to an appointment that needed to be accomplished before the end of the business day?
I don't recall.
Okay, that's fine. I have nothing further, thank you.
Any questions?
No, Your Honor, nothing further. Oh, I'm sorry.
No, they don't.
Okay. All right.
Thank you, officer.
You're welcome.
Oh, did you have something additional to this witness?
No.
Oh, okay.
I either am going to recall Ms. Tubbs just for the brief testimony about who uses oxygen in that home, or counsel can stipulate Mr. Witcher's on oxygen.
You know, she's already called the witness, and for the record, I'm not going to stipulate that, is it?
Okay,
She's
we
already
can,
called the witness.
yeah, let's put Ms. Tubbs back on.
Okay.
Okay, that's fine. Yeah, just for 1 second.
Okay.
All right. You identified Mr. Witcher, is that right?
Mhm.
As a person sitting at that table.
Yes.
Do you see him?
Yes.
Do you know if do you know anything about oxygen? What, with regard to Mr. Witcher?
You said what now?
Back to the thing, I'm gonna get to the core of the question. We have a total lack of foundation here. I don't know what
It
that
doesn't,
question
it's
even
pretty,
means.
it's pretty broad in terms
That's right.
of the knowledge of oxygen.
Okay. Ma'am, you indicated that Mr. Witcher is your child's grandfather, correct?
Yes.
All right. And how long had you known Mr. Witcher?
Years.
All right. Do you know if he used anything to help him breathe?
Yes.
What?
He's on oxygen.
Okay. And do you know are you aware if there is anything in the home to assist his breathing?
Yes, oxygen tanks.
Okay. Do you know where the oxygen tanks were kept?
No, I do not.
All right.
Well, it's tough to keep it
Okay.
unless it's in
She
some
said
form
no,
of
so
container.
no objection.
Okay. Have you ever seen oxygen tanks at that home?
Yes.
All right. Where had you seen them?
Living room, dining room, maybe everywhere. But I don't know where they're kept.
All right. You don't know where they were kept?
No.
Right? Where they were stored? All right. I have nothing further this witness. That's it.
No question. Yeah. Okay, thanks very much, ma'am.
But I found my number 2, so now
Oh,
I don't
okay,
need a
so
7.
Gotcha. So 1 through 6 were received,
Yeah.
and you have done the addition of this time.
No, I
Moving
do
the
not.
money over on all counts.
Right. Do you want me to argue first, or do you want, do you want,
Well, let's count, let me tell you
all right?
what I have been able to work,
Okay,
and then we'll just hear from folks.
okay.
And there's certain fundamentals that are not at issue. We know that the child at age 4 died as a result of a gunshot in the left chest, slightly upward trajectory, left to right. There was an exit round that was retrieved from the door channel wall. In that bedroom, it appeared it was occupied. There were only 2 bedrooms, and it was not the bedroom occupied by Mr. Richards. We have an excited utterance, which I'm at peace with, was indeed an excited utterance, by the 4-year-old that indicated she just, the little girl discharged. So we know that there's we know the cause, the death, we know the cause of the death. We do not know whether it was close range fire, nor is that particularly relevant to the situation we have here. We know that there were 3 folks who live in that home. And we know how the children got into the home that day. So, we know that there was a weapon. Ms. Johnson acknowledges by her statement that she brought the weapon into the home some month before. It is not a garden variety weapon. It's a long gun. It describes an AK-47 with banana clips taped together. It is, the only reason I say that is it is not something that could be easily concealed. It is a visible weapon. We know that the youngster, the deceased, was there from the night before. We know from the child's mother that Patricia had the youngster drop mom off. I think reasonable inference would be that Grandma Ms. Richardson brought the child back to the home, Ms. Johnson, where the child was found. Where I'm it would strike me that what your theory is, it's obviously an act of gross negligence on the part of all three, of each of these individuals. And I'm taking from this that your theory of gross negligence, and I'm not trying to put words in your mouth, deals with, and I looked at the standard jury instructions just to give you a quick fingertip reference here. And it goes back to People versus Orr, which I sort of remember, which is the three-pronged test. And then there's a case called People versus McCoy, which is quite simple and useful, I think, for our purposes. That's the whole business of speeding. And we can all understand the idea of going 100 miles an hour in a neighborhood or something. That'd be easy in terms of establishing gross negligence. Driving a car in and of itself would not be, but the manner in which one drives it. And then the case law in McCoy particularly points out that 100 miles an hour, you could extrapolate from that the act of gross negligence in failing to perform a duty or leaving. But it also can be that you can be driving at a very normal rate of speed if you've had foggy conditions or something of that nature. Okay, so that's the legal framework. So what your theory will have to be, I think, is that the two individuals that stayed in that room with the weapon not hidden between the bed and the wall, loaded in a fashion that would be able to be used by a child, and then allowing that weapon to be accessible to the children, was an act of gross negligence. And that the babysitter that day was grossly negligent by his own admission that having observed the weapon, knowing the weapon was accessible to the children, and knowing they were right there in the room, in the space. And I think he said, but you can correct me on this, that he was sitting on the edge of the bed when the weapon was actually discharged.
That was a statement.
So he knew the children were playing about the area when the weapon was fired. But that would be his gross negligence in his failure to act and allowing those conditions to exist. Now, I believe that that's where we are, and that's where I'm not trying, as I say, I don't need to put words in your mouth. That's where the conclusions I'm drawing. If there's more you want to bring to my attention, Ms. Goldfarb, I'd be happy to hear it, but I also want to hear from counsel.
Well, Your Honor, also that this weapon was not secured in any way. It wasn't made safe. These were 4-year-old children. So, I mean, there's no evidence that they climbed anywhere to get it. They were in the house with a rather large weapon. And it is clear, Your Honor, that it was from the physical evidence, and it was the 4-year-old because it required that somebody be beneath the child to shoot him in his chest. The entry room is the entry of 19 inches from the floor indicates that this was somebody who was short, who was low to the ground. The weapon was low to the ground, not in a closet, not anywhere. It was on the ground and unsecured and with no safety. Ms. Johnson admits she brought it into the house, admits she left children there knowing the children were playing around in the home. And this is a small house with a 2-bedroom house. There's
another presumption that I think we could make that I don't think is a stretch of some sort, and that is that the weapon was not stored in some sort of a safe place up on a shelf or something of that nature. There's nothing to suggest that whatsoever, and that somehow that it suddenly ended up on the floor while they were watching television.
Right.
There's nothing there. So the logic is that it was there when Ms. Johnson and Mr. Richard departed that day.
Yes. There is no evidence that it was stored, or that any child was searching for it or climbed on anything. There's no evidence there's anything there to climb on. This weapon was low to the ground, completely accessible to two 4-year-olds who were playing in a house having been left there by 3 people who were in charge of the children at the time, and without securing it, without making it safe, with magazines in it, fully loaded, all amounts to gross negligence on the part of all 3 of them, and that is Your Honor. And of course, with regard to Mr. Richardson, he's also charged with careless discharge, which does not require that he actually be the one who discharged it, but that the weapon was in under his immediate control at the time that it was discharged. In regard to Mr. Richardson.
Do you have to charge, is that
Right.
charged in the alternative?
No,
You don't feel you
no,
have to?
no, I don't. And
And the felony firearm is a bit of a reach?
not with regard to felony firearm would be that they were felons in possession, all 3 of them?
That's easy.
All right, and
How
that
about
felony
the felony
firearm is attached to either the felon in possession, the manslaughter, or the felony firearm attaches even to the felon in possession. So you can be a felon in possession and guilty of felony firearm, and they were all 3 in possession of the weapon. They it was in the room where Mr. Witcher and
Actual or constructive possession.
Actual,
at some given
right.
point during the
Right.
course of that act.
right, yes.
Just wondering.
Thank you. Judge, I totally understand the, why the prosecutor's office thinks they need to bring this charge. I mean, it's a horrible situation that happened. We have a young child that was killed, and a grieving family. And so I understand their inclination, their desire to bring this kind of charge. The problem I have with this is I think that the case law is pretty clear. If you're going to charge a manslaughter under a theory of gross negligence, it requires something more than ordinary negligence. It requires gross negligence. And all the case law I have seen and the cases I have read about this talk about there must be some level of foreseeability. The cases I've seen that talk about the, there was a situation, a case, People versus Staffel, which was a Court of Appeals case, 2012, that dealt with a similar type charge where a parent was charged because of the child who died, and the parent was accused of gross negligence. The child in that situation, I think, actually fell into a pool and drowned while the mother left the child unattended and went into the house. And the Court of Appeals spent a considerable amount of time in that case talking about why that was certainly a dangerous situation, but why in that circumstance there wasn't any foreseeability. That it took, was a little bit more of, well, okay, they could have known, should have known. The court even went a little bit further to talk about, in a situation like that, you have to have a little bit more. And what the court talked about, refusal to take precautionary steps to prevent the injury, knowing of, in that case, the child's proclivities. And the other case I found dealing with similar issues, again, the court talked about this, had the same kind of language, that there must be something more, refusing to take action when you know something. In this case, what we have, as to Ms. Johnson, that we know that she is a loving, caring grandmother, that her children regularly entrust her to take care of those children. She regularly sits. She picks them up. She drops them off. She keeps them. Not just one child's children, but another child's children. By all accounts, a loving, caring, devoted grandmother. Even moves into her ex-husband's home to help care for him when he falls ill. I mean, this is not a woman who is, any evidence on this record that she is, not a caring soul to members of her family. What we have is, according to the testimony, evidence that she made a statement saying, yes, I brought a gun into the home. It is kept in a location that the children normally do not have access to. Her bedroom, in her closet. And there is nothing on this record as to Ms. Johnson that it's anything other than that. There is a co-defendant statement which is not applicable and can't be used against Ms. Johnson. And in that statement, what he says is, after she's gone, I make a sandwich and go into her room to watch TV. I mean, there is nothing on this record from which we know, or we can assume or presume, that she knows that those children are being given access to some place that I think the officer indicated in her statement. She says it's kept in the closet in the bedroom. How did it get on the floor? She doesn't know. We know that sometime after she leaves the house and leaves those children in someone else's care, the unthinkable happens. They are given access.
Finish that off. Even if I left a loaded AK-47 in a bedroom closet, could that constitute the three little ones, the oldest being 7? Can that rise to being grossly negligent?
When I look
given the size of that home condition?
Well, Judge, when I look at those cases that deal with situations like this where family has been charged under a gross negligence theory for leaving basically an unsafe environment for children, what the courts have said in the both the Stafford case and I believe the other case that I have with me is Albers. In both of those cases, the courts talk about something beyond ordinary negligence.
Oh, yeah.
Something beyond that, talking about, knowing and not taking preventative measures. What kind of preventative measures? Ms. Johnson, in her statement, says, yes, there's a gun in the house. It's in a closet, in a room where the children, don't normally have access. Did she refuse to take preventative measures, knowing, as the court said in Stafford, the proclivities? She had, because those children don't have access to that room, to that closet, if it's something, if on this record there was proof that these children were everywhere all the time, getting into everything, climbing, searching, maybe. And then if she didn't do anything, there's nothing on this record. In fact, the child's mother who testified said, I've never been in those bedrooms. I don't know what's in those bedrooms. When my child sleeps there, my child sleeps on the couch. If there was some indication that those rooms where all of this medicine and oxygen tanks are was someplace the children regularly played, maybe. And then if under those circumstances she refused to take preventative measures, maybe. But none of that on this record. All we have on this record is this loving, caring grandmother knows there is a gun in the house. And on this record, the only thing that we can attribute to her is that she knew it was in a closet in a bedroom. I don't see on this record where there is sufficient evidence of her gross negligence, of her refusing to take preventative measures, knowing the proclivities. It's a tragic situation, and Ms. Johnson suffers, no less than any of the parties. I mean, she is as devastated by this as anyone. And, you know, but on this record, there is no proof of gross negligence on her part. You know, something I guess we can all agree, shouldn't have been done, but clearly on this record doesn't arise to the level of gross negligence.
One second, please, 1 second, please. Okay, Judge?
Yeah, just read it, it's to you.
Thank you very much, Your Honor. I do agree with Ms. Manarino when I say that this, of course, is a very tragic, very, very tragic incident. My client, at least according to his statement, was in the room. And by being in the room with the children playing, thought he was watching. They were there. He did not, I assure you, and even by his statement, intentionally or even grossly try and put those children in danger. And I think from his statement, it wasn't as though he left them in the room. He was there with them. Now maybe he should have done things differently, but he was there with them, telling them to get on the bed, watch the TV, and then the unthinkable happened. I don't think what he did amounts to gross negligence. Gross negligence would have been putting them in a room there and just leaving and going someplace else in the house. He didn't do that. He was staying there with them, trying to get them to stay on the bed. It wasn't his room. It wasn't his rifle. He was just simply watching the children, keeping them on the bed to watch TV while Ms. Johnson and Mr. Richter went out to run some errands. I don't think, Your Honor, that amounts to gross negligence based on the cases that have already been cited by Ms. Manarino.
Judge, I agree with my co-counsel that in the whole case, that the level of negligence here does not rise to gross negligence as to all three defendants. But I'm moving to dismiss the entire case against Mr. Witcher, because Mr. Witcher is in a totally different circumstance here, because there really hasn't been any evidence introduced against him other than the fact that Ms. Tubbs says that she knows that he lives at the residence, and that's really it here. I asked her, did she specifically make an agreement with Mr. Witcher to watch her children? I answered that in cross-examination. She said no. So there's no agreement between the two of them. The fact is that Mr. Witcher is the child's grandfather. There's no legal guardianship here. He's not the child's parents. He has no duty to watch the children, because either a family relationship, grandfather doesn't have the duty, nor any agreement. Furthermore, we certainly all agree that the two statements of the co-defendants cannot be used against my client under Crawford versus Washington. There's no evidence here whatsoever, and of course, that my client, first of all, was even in the house. That differs from one of the co-defendants. He wasn't even there. There's no evidence of that. There's no evidence that he even knows anything about the gun. He doesn't know. There's no evidence, because again, that came through the statements of one of the co-defendants. There's no testimony here that he knows about the gun, that he knew that it was in the bedroom, or that he even stays in that bedroom. There's absolutely no evidence against Mr. Witcher other than the fact that he stays in the house. And there's some evidence about prescription pills. Again, that's insufficient. There's no evidence that that's not evidence to show that he stays in the same bedroom, or again, that because there may be prescription medicine that he lived, that he stayed in the bedroom, or he knew about the gun. There's absolutely no evidence, in my opinion, that the court could use here to bind him over on any of these charges. So I would move to dismiss it. Of course, with Mr. Witcher, it's count 1 is against it on manslaughter, involuntary manslaughter. Count 2, possession of firearm by a felon. No evidence here that he was in possession or knew that the gun was there, so he obviously couldn't be in possession. And of course, the felony firearm would fade away. So I would move to dismiss the entire case against Mr. Witcher.
Stay with the, go ahead, thank you. Stay with the Witcher question.
Okay.
What have you got that shows that he had, let's just, she brings a weapon into the home. Yeah, I want to be careful here when I try to think about how we got the first statement that got him going along to obtain the weapon. Let's skip that one for a moment. We've got the weapon in the home. What do you got on the day in question that would demonstrate that he would leave those children with access to that loaded weapon? Because that's what you really have to have, don't you?
Well, the evidence with regard to him is not, other than the statement of the co-defendant and the statement of the mother that he shared a room with her.
Yeah, I can do that.
And have his, you know, the items that are unique to him, like his medicine and his oxygen in that room.
As a
We have a
regular user of the room.
huge, we have a big weapon. I mean, not something that's, you know, that you could put under a bed, because the bed, you can't put anything under the bed. Not something that you can, that isn't, if it's put in a closet, you can't see in plain view. We have a big weapon, Your Honor, and I would suggest that that we have his knowledge, based on what the mother said, that children come there all the time. He's there, that children are always babysat there. So it doesn't, I would suggest to the court that it doesn't require that he know that moment or that day, but that as a rule, that he knows that children stay there regularly, that they play there. The proclivities of 4-year-olds to play is like obvious. That when you have a big thing with, you know, they're going to play with it. That it is grossly negligent that he had in his room, and you can infer knowledge just based on the size of the weapon, and that he stayed there, and that he knew that children are always playing in that house. You can't, and you know, to say that, well, there's nothing, that there was any lock on the door, lock on this weapon, lock on the closet, nothing to indicate that this was in any way secured to prevent those children who were regularly playing in the house from access to this huge weapon. I would indicate that that would be gross negligence for Mr. Witcher and for all of the other defendants as well.
Unless I'm missing something, there's no evidence this was his room. That only.
I'm sorry, there is evidence.
Other than the codefendant statement.
Oh, sure, no, there's plenty of evidence that there was oxygen tanks in that room, and there were no oxygen tanks in the other bed.
I believe this Tubbs testimony is, I don't know where the oxygen tanks were kept.
Right.
No, but the officer that responded to the scene
Sergeant
testified
Bowser.
on the tanks.
Yeah, but that doesn't prove it's his room.
No, but I mean, these are reasonable inferences at a preliminary examination.
And Ms. Tubbs testified the first time she testified that she was aware that Mr. Witcher and Ms.
That he was the user of oxygen.
And that he shared a room with Ms. Johnson.
Yes.
She testified to that as well. That she just didn't know which one was
I
assigned
don't
to
think
which
there's
person.
any problem, to put it simply, I don't think there's any problem with Mr. Richardson, quite frankly, sitting on the edge of the bed, and you know there's a weapon right there, and it's a loaded AK-47, and you let the 4-year-olds and 7-year-olds play. That's gross negligence. That's not a difficult case for me. I think as it relates to Ms. Johnson, I don't think that's a particularly difficult case. You're bringing a weapon into the home, and then you're asked to be the babysitter of these children, and you are by definition, regardless of where, quite frankly, where that weapon was kept, when you keep a loaded AK-47 in the home, you are creating immediately a grossly negligent situation where they would have apparently access to that weapon. In this case, we have had ready access or easy access. There's nothing to suggest that they had to get the weapon from some other location and bring it into the bedroom that day, the children that is. So I think that that's relatively straightforward in terms of proofs as to Ms. Richardson. I think it's a much closer question as it relates to Mr. Richardson. In terms of what proofs or evidence has been presented here today. And it's always a challenge when you've got multiple statements and so forth. We know only that the weapon is in the home. I don't know that there's much to demonstrate Mr. Richard's knowledge prior to that day of the weapon in the home. I have to admit that. We know that there is a weapon by the side of a bed that does not have where the weapon could not be hidden, but I do not have any evidence to demonstrate that Mr. Witcher was, that there was, The question would be, is there anything for purposes of a preliminary exam that would suggest that the weapon was elsewhere and then brought to that exact location where the children could play that afternoon, which is sort of a negative, which is a negative. Or may I reasonably infer that the weapon was there and therefore accessible to the kids in the absence of anything to the contrary? And I think that's probably the more reasonable inference that a court can draw. And if I can draw that reasonable inference, that the weapon was there, absent anything else, then it would be, since it is his bedroom, shared in a joint bedroom, I think you can reasonably find that he was aware that the weapon was accessible for the kids also. I think it's a very close question as to him. But that said, I think under People v. McCoy, it is a question that is ordinarily for the jury, and I think it would be in this case ordinarily a question for a jury. The parties, all three, I believe the evidence is demonstrated sufficient to show probable cause both as to the crimes charged and a probable cause as to all three having committed the crimes. They will be bound over on all counts as charged. Unless there's a reason, the bonds will be continued. Is there any reason not to continue the bonds?
Your Honor, I would ask for a referral.
I'll do a referral.
Thank you.
Judge, I would address the bond Mr. Richard versus the court can see an option.
What's your bond now? It's a $200,000 cash or surety?
The court's heard the evidence of what evidence there is against Mr. Richard here. Quite frankly, I understand and I respect the court's ruling, but I think that, at least in my opinion,
Well, let me be perfectly,
a difficult case.
let me be blunt. He has an extensive record going, but it's an old record. Ms. Goldfarb, the whatever they call it, pretrial services, the present bond was $200,000 cash or surety, and the recommendation is that it's excessive, it's not a capital offense. Now, none of us are, in no one, in common decency, is suggesting it's not a grave offense. So we're talking, this matter as lawyers. They are recommending a $50,000, 10%. Do the people have any objection to that reduction?
No, I'm going to leave it to the court's discretion.
All right.
Just for the record, I move for the original bond.
Well, I will leave it at that. I will reduce it to $50,000, 10%, based on the recommendation from the form.
Your Honor, is there a referral back from Mr. Richardson?
I will make a referral for Mr. Richardson because at least one and possibly two of the individuals are in jail and may not be able to come out, where they have the ability to make bond. We will set the agreement on the information for February 21. And I will make that referral as it relates to Mr. Richardson.
Thank you very much, Your Honor.
Thank you. 50,000, 10% as to Mr. Richard.
Thank you.
Thank you, Judge.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much, Your Honor.
Thank you very much.
What?
14-5549. Albert.
Are my exhibits up now? Did I give it to the court yet? Or I did not give it?
Floyd.
Washington Crawford.
You signed this reduction?
Was it Washington and Crawford?
You said Washington versus
He may have said that, but
Mr. Harris, Crawford versus Washington?
I'm waiting on her to take this picture.
The ones with the stickers.
Yeah,
Where are they?
those stickers there, I'm like, oh, our stickers, why?
No, the exhibits with the stickers.
Oh, right here, I put them right here, you gave them to me. They're right here. And I got them up on that piece of paper. You got that bond change?
Very.
50-10, correct?